This is not your average address to an APCM, coming over 6 months after the usual deadline and in the midst of a global pandemic. Things are not quite normal, but it is an opportunity to take a look back, and with that we must remember the focus of an APCM, that it's the previous calendar year, in this case 2019, and it might seem strange reflecting back on events that seem so distant in both time and in reality, as so much of our present circumstances are so different. However, it is the same God who works amongst us now, as then, and in so many ways, the opportunity to look back and give thanks for his work has never been so important. So often the story of what has been helps with navigating the here and now. And we have a story to tell of God bringing us through challenging circumstances, the brink of possible closure a few years ago, to the place we find ourselves now. Looking back in the review document that we put together for 2019 was a year of building on what had been started in 2018. There were lots of things that we did for a second time and were able to improve on and draw inspiration for further activity. So much more could have been said than went into that review, and there are so many photos that didn't make the cut, and each of those photos tell of stories of us as a growing community shaped by Jesus. And I would like us to look at just 3 that didn't make it into the booklet that I feel gives some perspective for us now. The first one is this. This shows a response to a sermon by Matt on Joseph and how we follow God's lead, and it's Jim taking a walk around a labyrinth that's been taped to the floor. A labyrinth is a visual representation of a spiritual journey with God. In the move towards the centre, typically there is space to leave behind all that weighs on us as individuals, all our worries, our fears and concerns. And as we reach the centre, there's a space to dwell in the presence of God, to be still and listen, waiting for illumination, a sense of healing, or just to be aware of God's presence. And on the winding way out is opportunity to embrace our unity with God and consider ourselves and others in prayer. This journey is one I hope we might recognise, even if not within a labyrinth, but in our own relationships with God. A letting go, a reconnecting with God, and a moving out of ourselves towards others. We must be reminded of our continuing journey, to reflect on what has been, to acknowledge our present, and to look to the future with the perspective of our future hope found in Jesus Christ. So this next picture shows a game of catching fish played during an all-age service. And as I look at this picture and many others like it from TOTS and our incredible kids ministry, I'm struck by the importance and significance of play, yes, for kids, but for all of us. In many ways, play is God-given and is core to creativity, something we exhibit as humans made in the image of God. But more than that, in the images through 2019, I see new things that came into being, sometimes based on playing with the old, sometimes imagined and made a reality. Over the last couple of years, we've been taken out of the usual and established to play and innovate, bringing groups of people together to renew St Paul's Church, exploring how to connect with the community, moving out into the hall to enable the building project to happen, closing the building to discover that church and faith look totally different online and at home. None of these things were comfortable, but when we approach them with the heart of God, one of creativity and play, we have discovered and learned new ways of doing things, and I hope learn more about ourselves and those around us. This is something that I would never want to lose. We need to keep playing. Now, this last picture is a picture from last year's Mother's Day runaway service, a postcard that was given out. And it's a reminder of a message we all need to hear, one that is at the heart of the gospel and who Jesus is. We are not alone. We are community, and we need to keep being community to one another and those around us. And God, through Jesus, invites us into community with him so that we are never alone. Secondly, it's okay to grieve. We don't have to be okay or feel, right all the time. Loss is a part of this life, and we each will know it in some way, and we'll certainly be feeling it in some way as we go into lockdown again. But in acknowledging that it is okay to feel it, to feel loss, we do not give ourselves over to it, but acknowledge the space it has in our story. And that story is held by a God who loves us. This message is something that we need to keep holding out before those around us as a growing community shaped by Jesus. That you're not alone. Community matters. It's okay to grieve, but loss is not the end. That your story matters, and we want to hear it. And ultimately, that you are loved by Almighty God, who wants to be a part of your story. So, as we look ahead, we stay on the journey, letting go, reconnecting with God and moving out of ourselves to others. We don't stop playing, as it's the place that we learn and create. And we keep sharing the message of Jesus, because it's good news, whatever the circumstances. Now,